I honestly don't really have any other theories about this game beyond this one, and honestly, game theory pretty much broke down everything else there is to break down about this game. Wait, wait a minute. Wait just a ding-dong damn minute. Hello everyone, my name is Blue Raven 666, jinxing himself into coming up with more videos about specific topics since 2015. Today I'm going to be diving back into Cooking Companions, a visual novel-style game chock full of mysteries and cannibalism. If you're not familiar with this game, you can check out the other video I made where I talk about what my damage is with the character Corinne. I'm gonna be real here, there are plenty of other theorists talking about this game and playthroughs if you don't want to play this game for yourself. But today, I've come here to challenge the one and only Matt Pat on one of his theories about this game. Yep, the man, the myth, the legend himself. In my last video, I cut a lot of corners to try and spoil the story of Cooking Companions as little as possible, because I want to encourage others to check it out for themselves. It just doesn't seem as fun or as interesting with me just talking about it. In this video, however, I'm going to try to go through a lot more of this game's hidden lore, so if you haven't played through this game on Steam or you haven't seen anything about Cooking Companions thus far, please at least watch a story explained video first, then come back to this one. So what's my damage this time? Which one of Matt Pat's theories am I challenging here? Well, in this video, I wanted to talk about the Chompettes, those cute little food characters that you see all over this game. While Matt Pat did come up with a pretty solid theory as to what they were and why they're a part of this game, I still noticed a few holes that still keeps things from adding up. In this game, we play as this sort of cannibalistic hermit that lives in a remote cabin up in the Tatras Mountains. Shortly after Mariah, Anatoly, Gregor, and Corinne, the four other human characters in this game, enter the scene, that's when we first encounter the Chompettes. Now, on the surface, these cutesy little food items seem perfectly harmless and cheerful, but honestly, I feel like that's just cabbage. You have Onion, who constantly comments on your lack of personal hygiene. Bread, the lover of dad joke level puns that actually feel more like nods and jabs towards you and your mental stability. Raspberry, who tries to act friendly at first but gradually drops the facade to let you know just how terrible of a person you are. Potato, whom I feel like has a lot more to do with this than any of us realize. And Cornbread, the sixth member of the Chompettes that gets mentioned a lot by the others but is no longer there. There is a lot of speculation out there as to whether or not the Chompettes are actually real or if they're just figments of our imagination, to the point where our own character that we play as wonders the same exact thing. On the one hand, they're able to slam doors, shut doors, travel through mouse holes, and even pick us back up after we pass out near the end of the main story. But when we ask the Chompettes for help while we're fighting Corinne in the basement, she isn't able to see them and thinks we're just talking to ourselves. And when we do pass out in the game, the Chompettes seem to phase in and out like they're not even there. Then again, they're able to rouse us from our sleep and seem very concerned about the others in the cabin finding them and eating them. Not trying to eat them, but actually eating them. Potato even states that our character would just get horribly sick if we tried to eat him. So, what in the world are these things and why are we putting up with each other? Well, the game itself makes it blatantly obvious that the Chompettes are spirits that dwell within the cabin. Just a handful of the many, many other spirits that dwell somewhere within the cabin. And here's where I get to Matt Pat's theory. The idea that the Chompettes are victims that died within the cabin by our own hands, or at the very least the hands of the Baba Yaga, presuming that is the entity that we're possessed by. But if that's the case, why are there just 5 Chompettes with us? I find it very hard to believe that with how long our character is implied to have been around, killing people and eating their flesh, that they all went out the same way Mariah, Anatoly, and Gregor did, either leaving the cabin and being killed outside, or dying at the hands of somebody else. Shouldn't we have like an entire produce section of Chompettes hanging around? Well, no, because the way I see it, the reason behind the Chompettes' existence goes deeper than that. Riddle me this. What do the main 5 Chompettes all seem to have in common throughout the appetizer edition of the game, the main game, Nightmare Mode, New Game Plus, and the Chompette cabin courses? And let me ask you this as another point. Which character of our 4 guests has the most in common with the Chompettes? Which one of the 4 is the odd one out in terms of our relationship with them? I ask this because in one of this game's endings, the Chompettes end up welcoming a new member into their group, Turnip. This scene appears immediately after the cut scene in the basement where we watch Corinne after she dies, implying that that's who Turnip is. But why? Well, to answer that, we have to dive into Corinne's character a little bit more. After Mariah and Anatoly leave the cabin, Corinne expresses that she's glad the 2 of them are gone, openly stating that they were preventing the 2 of us from bonding properly. Well, there's a very good reason for that, Corinne. I liked them and despised you. Anyways, if you max out your bond with Corinne, someone ends up confessing their love to somebody. Whether it's Corinne while we're still at the basement door before we can lock her in, or right at the very last minute during the knife fight in the basement when Corinne tries charging at us. We grab her wrist, snatch back our knife, and wrap her in our thin, frail arms. And I seem to remember in one instance after Corinne ends up passing away from an illness, immediately after that, it cuts to Turnip joining the Chompettes. I could be wrong though, I literally played through this game so many times and now my computer won't work, so don't entirely quote me on that. But how does all of that tie back into our character's own relationship with the Chompettes? Well, let's look at the one that our character clearly shares a lot of history with. Potato. Think about this for just a minute. Which object in the game gets brought up repeatedly that links Potato, Corinne, and the main character together? It's Potato's knife. Yes, this knife originally belonged to Potato, which at one point we looted from his corpse and hid away in a drawer. And in the main game, Corinne manages to get a hold of it and starts off using it to whittle away at a piece of wood to pass the time. But why? Why is this knife so important that we felt the need to loot it from Potato's corpse after he died in the basement? And why did Corinne feel the need to steal it from us when, in all likelihood, we've probably got plenty more knives in the kitchen? Just like MatPat, I suspect that we had some sort of bond with Potato prior to his death and him becoming a Chompette. Aside from Raspberry, Potato is the most blunt and straightforward with us. Unlike Raspberry, however, rather than seeing us as a monster, Potato sees us as a shell of our former selves, helping us with certain things because he pities what we've become. If nothing else, we're a mockery of the legacy that he left behind, assuming that he was the previous Baba Yaga. So between the 3 of us, aside from the knife, the thing that we all have in common is a strong emotional bond. And if you'd like to debate me on that, riddle me this. Why the 2 beds? In one of the game's scenarios, after Potato locks away the other Chompettes, why does Potato state that it's just the 2 of us, and that's the way it should have always been? Why is our character able to make the connection that Corinne and Potato would have made great partners in another life? I feel like it's because we understand what it's like to be in that position. Even though the main character's memory is pretty unreliable, we know what it's like to be Potato's partner in cannibalism. Why else would Potato make the suggestion that we should go and feast on the people of local towns together in another one of this game's many endings? But then, what about the other Chompettes? While I can speculate that Potato and Corinne became Chompettes due to having a strong bond with our character, are we really able to say the same about the other Chompettes? Perhaps. During our battle with Corinne in the basement, Onion asks us why we originally came to the cabin. Now, the we and the way that it's used doesn't feel as straightforward as I feel MatPat made it out to be. We could just refer to the other Chompettes, or it could refer to us plus the Chompettes. Just from looking at the image to the upcoming DLC to Cooking Companions, I feel like it was the former. Based on this image, it looks like the Chompettes, apart from Potato, were all children when they died. And we know from the Chompette cabin courses that Potato originally dropped out of school to work at the butcher. Hence, based on the notes that we find throughout the game, we can deduce that Potato was the butcher of Zakopane, and was active at the time. But I highly doubt he was the same age as the other Chompettes at the time they were murdered. That would explain why the other Chompettes act more like children, while Potato is more like a survivalism-oriented adult. But then that begs the question, who were we more closer in age to? The Chompettes or the butcher? The four of them had to be connected to us somehow, if my theory is correct, and I have a hard time believing that a whole-ass adult took a whole-ass child on as his pupil. Now, this is just my own interpretation that was brought on by having too many thoughts at 3 in the morning, but I suspect that we fell somewhere in the middle. Old enough to be involved with the butcher of Zakopane, but close enough to the other Chompettes that they trusted us, and there was a strong friendship there. What I'm trying to get at with all this is that the Chompettes are far more than just victims of the Baba Yaga killed inside the cabin. But they're victims of the Baba Yaga killed inside the cabin that have a deeper emotional connection to us. That's why Corinne doesn't become a Chompette at the end of the game if we don't max out our bond with her. It's why Potato knows us so well and became a Chompette at all, and it's why we don't have an entire grocery section of Chompettes following us around. That then leaves one last question. What's the deal with Cornbread? All we really know about him is that he was Onion's relative, his name was Raziel, and that's where Bread got most of his puns from. We can also speculate, following our own theory, that like the other Chompettes, we were close to him too, and we killed him within the confines of the cabin. Now, MatPat's theory was that we invited him inside and he stayed for a while. Until we got hungry, that is. We kill him, and in doing so, we feel remorse because he wasn't supposed to be there to begin with. During the twist ending of the main game, we find out that victims are chosen by how they answer one simple question. Do you come on your own free will, or were you sent? The correct answer being, I am here 75% of my own free will, 65% by compulsion. And honestly, that's just for the context of this game. The actual question, in line with the stories of Baba Yaga, is, do you come here of your own free will, or do you come by compulsion? Which makes the answer just make a little bit more sense. But still true to the game, if you answer it in any other way, you die. Now, has anyone ever considered the possibility that Raziel actually answered the question correctly? Maybe he grew up with tales of the Baba Yaga and actually believed in them, so when he heard us ask this very specific question, he knew exactly how to answer. Then we invite him in and he stays for a while, telling us jokes and otherwise lightening up the grim reality that he's searching for his relative who is already long dead. And then the hunger sets in. What if our own hunger, our own greed and gluttony, caused us to kill Raziel despite answering our one question correctly? And that is the event that causes us to feel remorse. We broke the one rule we had to follow, all because we were hungry. And we break as a result, constantly struggling between hospitable and kind, and apathetic and bloodthirsty. And then, not long after, a piece of cornbread appears, telling us jokes and puns with the same enthusiasm as Raziel. And we let him go. We don't allow him to be trapped within the cabin with us because he shouldn't have died at all. Because he answered our question correctly. And as a result, we become known to the spirits of the cabin as the Butcher of Hope, with the other spirits down in the basement hoping that someday they too may just be set free. Now, at the end of the day, this could just be my third shift schedule completely messing with my head, and I could be entirely wrong here, but I feel like it would better explain the presence of the Chompettes and why they're there. And so there you have it. Oh wait, that's not my slogan. Anyways, that'll be all for this video, you guys. Thank you for watching. For the record, this is not me trying to throw any shade at MatPat for his theories on cooking companions. This is just me overthinking. Like, some of the stuff I originally had for this video was almost fanfiction worthy. In fact, some of the stuff in this video is probably fanfiction worthy. Let me know what you thought about this video down in the comment section below. Next time, I'm tackling the squirrel that appears on Anatoly's shoulders. My name is BlueRaven666, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!